Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. As you might tell with all the videos that are coming out, legislation is continuing to move, and we've got some news for you just breaking earlier this week. To do that, we've brought back our legislative director, Rick Travis, to go through some of this with us. Rick, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. But before we get into it today, I just want to share, please like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It really helps get this information out there. We want to work the algorithms and get as many eyes on this information as possible so that people can be informed. So, Rick, I wanted to go through a couple things with you here today because we got some good news and then we've got, I guess, sort of a PSA to do today too, as legislation from last year is coming into effect at the beginning of next year. But we did just have something happen with Assembly Bill 262 yesterday. Can you please go ahead and remind us what Assembly Bill 262 is and what happened with the legislature?
Yeah, Assembly Bill 262 started out 4 sessions ago. It was a Portantino bill at that time, and it had to deal with the tragedy in his district where a young girl died at a day camp, which is always tragic. It had nothing to do with firearms. It had to do with swimming pool issues. But of course, Portantino always wants to go after everything to make it look like he is the superhero of the legislature, and so he did. Both years that he tried to push the bill through, it died. Assemblyman Holden picked it up and has been running it. This was the second year. 262 is known as the Camps Bill, and it was specifically targeting in the following order: ranges at every camp throughout the state, then horse programs or horsemanship type programs, and then swimming pools. The large focus, obviously, on ranges. We saw this as a backdoor to all range activity. They never had called in the CRPA, the NRA, or any other organization does training and has literally century and a half of experience in keeping things safe. So we strongly oppose this. We're involved with the author's office, lobbied everywhere we could, brought a coalition together, and the result was that that bill is dead for the session. I have no doubt that it will come back in some other form again. It's one of those what I call zombie bills. They keep trying to push it. We'll keep fighting it. But it is a small victory because it was a study bill that was designed to create multiple bills against ranges. And we've at least postponed that for another year, if not another couple of years.
Well, that is awesome. So for the 2023 session, Assembly Bill 262, which would definitely affect ranges, potentially create other bills from that bill, is dead. While we might be looking forward to fighting it again next year, it is dead for this session, so we won't see that get signed for the 2023 legislature. I did want to focus on something you said, though, because this is something that didn't just happen in this bill. It happens in a lot of bills. It happens in a lot of studies. A lot of tax money is taken in California every year to do studies on gun violence. And I've got to put the air quotes up there because I think you and I can both agree that we have a crime problem, not a gun violence problem. But the whole point that you made about them not contacting CRPA or NRA or any of these organizations that have literally been teaching firearms safety for over 100 years. That also, you know, they never come to CRPA or NRA to do any of these studies. Can you give us some insight into that? Why would they not want to use the people who actually have the experience in these fields to do these sorts of studies?
Because I think the public has been misled to believe that they actually, when Governor Newsom stands up and says, "Oh, I'm more than willing to work with anybody on the other side." No, he's not. We have numerous times in the legislature said, let's sit down at the table and work together. I mean, just in the area of firearms safety, just let's narrow it down to high school sports. We have millions of trigger pulls every decade inside firearms, shooting groups, trap groups. No accidents, no ambulances on standby, none of that. Kevin, you played football. I know other members of our staff have played football, lacrosse, basketball, baseball. Yeah, you have ambulances all the time because people get hurt in those sports. We are very, very safe in this sport. We're very, very conscientious. And yet they don't bring us to the table. They go to groups that have only been around 5-10 years that are anti-Second Amendment and say, hey, could you provide us with safety things? And Unfortunately, some of those people get titles like I'm a firearms instructor, but I also work for Giffords, or I work for Brady, or I work for Moms that Demand Action. And those become the experts because they have a narrative that the governor and his cronies want to use.
But I want to make this apparent because this is a blatant decision by somebody or a group of people with a specific ideology. It's not as if these pro Second Amendment organizations are hiding in caves. We are out there. We are saying to the legislature, we want to work with you and provide you with information, and they are just blatantly disregarding it. Is that what's happening?
Well, it's actually more evil than that, Kevin. I mean, if you look at it, what you said was so appropriate. We have a crime control problem. We aren't controlling crime anymore. But what we are doing is taking criminals, the ones that actually commit gun violence and a lot of other things that we're seeing in society right now, and we reward them by laying them out early. We reward them by limiting what law enforcement can do. We reward them by giving our taxpayers dollars. And then we go to the law-abiding, the most law-abiding, such as in Senate Bill 2, CCW holders, and try to make them into criminals. That should tell you everything.
Yeah, and I guess it's just misguided legislation after misguided legislation, or if you want to say evil legislation after evil legislation. It just seems to continue and build on each other. But we can rest easy on Assembly Bill 262 because we did get it pulled from the floor. Rick, I know that you have a lot to do with that, so thank you for the work that you're doing up there to get these elected officials to pull these sorts of things from the floor. So I guess moving on here, before we get into that, let's hear from our sponsor, the Police Credit Union. As the trusted financial partner for 70 years to law enforcement and their families, your membership helps continue the support of law enforcement officers throughout the state. As a member, you'll have access to all member benefits, including checking accounts with ATM fee rebates and no monthly fees, certificates with highly competitive rates, auto loans, home loans, online technology with 24/7 banking convenience, and much more. And don't forget, the credit union is now extending memberships to CRPA members. So join today at www.thepolicecreditunion.org. The link will be in the description below, and continue to discover the benefits of membership while supporting law enforcement officers today. All right, Rick. So I did want to, I guess, go from a good sentiment on anti-Second Amendment legislation to, I guess, a negative one. This is a bill that passed last year in the 2022 session. It's Senate Bill 1384, and it is a bill that is going to come into effect, at least a part of it, Section 2 of it, is going to come into effect on January 1st, 2024. So this has to do with surveillance. Can you really quick round out this bill for us and what's going to be, and what happened last year and how it got passed?
Yeah, we fought. This is David Min, senator out of Orange County. David Min has never saw anything that was anti-Second Amendment, anti-Constitution that he doesn't fall in love with. He thinks he's going to change the world. He's running for Congress in this next election cycle. So for those of you in the Orange County area, you have an ability to fire him once and for all. So please do as you vote in both the March and November primaries. That was my public service announcement. But as we move forward, here's what we're looking at. This requires all FFLs to have to place a video camera system that watches from every angle. This is like something you would see out of a Mission Impossible film, where, Tom Cruise is trying to be lowered in and there's literally a billion cameras seeing like his breath move, everything. And it's based on Min's erroneous statement that the majority of criminal firearms come from straw purchases, meaning that people are acting like they're purchasing a firearm for themselves when they are from other people. And so he wanted to catch them so they could analyze them, so they can do everything with them. They can analyze staff. This is literally going to cost the average FFL, depending on the size, anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 into well into the 6 digits, depending on the size of the store. And I know you're going to break it down into some of the parts of this, but there are also jurisdictions that want that fed automatically to a dispatch, and some FFLs to possibly have to pay off of this. So this is a bill that's being networked as it's now a law, not just by Min's office and the legislature and the AG's office, but also by outside groups that are continuing to go on the local political action level, as you know, Kevin, and trying to make it even more erroneous than it is. And at the end of the day, here's what's funny. No one's really watching these videos.
Yeah.
What this is designed to do is put FFLs out of business.
Well, yeah. So actually, let's break that down because, and I'm going to ask at the end of the video, guys. We're looking for solutions, and leave us some solutions that you might see in the comments because this is something that has already passed. It is something that businesses are going to have to take on if they haven't already. But Jacob, if you could pull up the actual text from the bill. And it reads something like this. Commencing January 1st, 2024, a licensee shall ensure that its business premises are monitored by a digital video surveillance system that meets all the following requirements. 1, the system has to clearly record images. 2, each camera needs to be permanently mounted in a fixed location. And 3, here's where you get into the really kind of nasty stuff. The areas recorded shall include the following: interior views of all the entries and exits of the premises, all areas where firearms are displayed, all points of sales sufficient to identify the parties involved in the transaction. The system shall continuously record 24 hours a day at a frame rate no less than 15 frames per second. So I guess breaking this down further, and businesses that don't already have this need to know this because they are going to be held to account on January 1st, 2024. If you don't know what 15 frames per second is, I did look up a calculator. Jacob, can you pull up the calculator really quick? Because I think this is actually worth breaking down. What is the cost that's actually going to come from this? You guys, this has nothing to do with installing cameras. It has nothing to do with the hardware itself. Let's just talk about storing the data. Let's talk about storing 24 hours worth of data for an entire year. Here from our friends at Seagate, they have a calculator. So if you had 6 cameras, which most stores would probably need more than 6, at frame rates per second of 15 for 24 hours a day, for a 30-day period, you're looking at 26.73 terabytes. That's at a low quality resolution, by the way. All right, so let's apply that to what it would cost for an entire year based on that calculator. So you've got 1 month of storage for 6 cameras that would require 25 terabytes of storage. The largest hard drive in a quick Google search that I was able to find was 20 terabytes, costing between $200 and $350. So for 1 year's worth of storage on 6 cameras, which again, most stores would probably require more than 6 cameras, you're looking at 300 terabytes of storage. That would be 16 of these 20 terabyte hard drives, and that would cost between $8,000 and $14,000 just to store the data. Again, not talking about cameras, not talking about installation, not talking about any other regulations that where you live may apply. Just to store that much data on hard drives, it's going to be between $8,000 and $14,000. Now, if you think that cloud-based storage is better, it's not. To store this much data in the cloud is going to cost you $2,000 a month. That's a $26,000 per year expense. So Rick, you kind of mentioned it already, just as far as regulating businesses out of the state of California. What is the, I mean, this is just looking at the storage. What is the overall impact that you see from a bill like this on FFLs?
This is where I often talk to people, Kevin. That's a great question because you're pointing out the upfront financial cost of like, this is what you're looking at, but there's a couple things in the bill that I'm not saying they're hidden, but people don't really look at them. And one of those is this also requires $1 million liability insurance policy for every incident. So there comes another cost that they embed in it. Plus, if you were to look at, I believe in the bill, it's under section, well, in the bill, I believe it's, section 5. It specifies that its provisions do not preclude any local authority or governing body from adopting and enforcing local laws or policies regarding video surveillance that don't contradict with the requirements of this bill. So that's legislative speak. How does that play out? You and I, a couple of years ago, were up in the Silicon Valley at a very good store that we went to go visit, a business affiliate. and they were being required by their local government a couple of years ago to have to provide a live feed to their dispatch office. So allegedly, the police department was going to have a dispatcher, and a lot of this is where some local agencies see an ability to make even more money by claiming that firearms cost them more money, because obviously them doing this is preventing a crime. It's kind of like going to that Tom Cruise movie Minority Report and saying, oh, well, because we were watching, the crime didn't happen. This is more Big Brother, very Orwellian 1984, because when you look at the statistics from both the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, DOJ, et cetera, we're not finding a lot of straw purchases. Do they happen from time to time? Yes. But the incident level of it is so minuscule that this is ridiculous. This is punitive. This is designed to hurt people. A lot of this was done because men and a lot of people thought that they could use emergency powers during the pandemic to shut out FFLs. We fought very hard to keep those open and won. And every time they find that they're unconstitutional on something, Kevin, they try to find a tech way around it. This is just part of a package of bills that Senator Min has been using to get across the board over the past couple of years. It includes this. It includes other bills like currently up that are designed to use credit card codes, designed to make it so that anybody who does business with the FFL and a manufacturer can't do business with the state or county government. All this is designed to wipe out the business and the culture of firearms ownership by any means necessary.
Well, yeah, and it really just makes me think, as these senators and assemblymen sit in their offices, they are not held to account for these bills. The only time that they are held to account is during the elections. So, this bill has already passed. I guarantee you the FFLs will be held to account on January 1st, 2024. We need to make sure that coming up in 2024, these legislators are held to account because they are costing people money that they shouldn't have to pay. And ultimately, we all know where it ends. It ends with people leaving the state of California, not just in regulations for FFLs, but businesses all over the state. California seems to be incredibly overregulated, which is why we continue to see people leave. But let me tell you, we don't want you to leave. We don't want FFLs to leave, which is why we're looking for solutions. And we are reaching out to businesses. We have one already. It's Jacob, if you can put a link down in the description below. Perimeter Protection USA has already come out and said, hey, for CRPA affiliated businesses, I'm going to offer you a discount. They are a surveillance company. They do everything to meet the requirements of this bill. And if you know any businesses that might be willing to offer a discount for our FFLs, please leave it in the comment section. We are looking to reach out to surveillance companies to lower these costs for FFLs as much as humanly possible. And also keep in mind, when you go into your local FFL, make sure and ask them, do you know about Senate Bill 1384 and are you in compliance? Because on January 1st, 2024, it's coming into effect. We want to make sure that every FFL out there knows about this bill so that they don't get dinged. Rick, any final thoughts?
Yeah, one of them that I think we need to make clear to all the FFLs out there and all the customers of FFLs is this bill irks me to no end from the standpoint of the Department of Justice gets a bad name, and rightfully so from a lot of people, but there are some good men and women that work in the ranks. And what they're telling me, the problem is they're going to be forced to go to FFLs, as you stated just now. But what they're not being forced to do is go after the tens of thousands of people on the armed prohibited persons system that have illegal firearms. We know where they're at. We know they're in violation of the law. We know they need to go to jail. The legislature has been told this on numerous bills repeatedly by members of both political parties throughout this session. Hey, fund DOJ to go after the people on the app system. Quit going after innocent people. And yet, bills like this last year and several bills this year continue to target the law-abiding citizens and the law-abiding business owner.
Well, it certainly helps in understanding that this is an agenda that continues to get pushed forward, and it has nothing to do with the safety of Californians. Rick, I want to thank you very much for coming on and helping us navigate this legislation a little bit. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And once again, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos. If you like this content, let's get it out to as many people as we possibly can. It really helps with the algorithms so that people can be informed, especially coming up to the 2024 elections, where we can make the Second Amendment a priority for people when they go to that ballot box. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.